Which is probably just fine. All right, John, so in 1987,
all right, good morning. This is always the worst part of this, is getting your attention. So we've been looking forward to this morning. It should be a great day as we talk about economic development and county government. I think you're going to enjoy this. I am not going to say much at all about it. Our moderator, Jim Leaf, has got a plan in place. I think you'll enjoy his approach this morning. I've enjoyed getting to know him over the last month or so. We kind of surprised him, and he'll explain that to you as well this morning. Let's have a word of prayer, and then I'm literally just going to turn it over to Jim, and we'll get started. Father, we're so grateful for the day. We're thankful for the rain that was so desperately needed. Lord, we're thankful for your goodness to us. And Father, we're just thankful for these who are in our government in these areas around us, these 4 counties around us, and how faithful they are in their service. And we just pray that you might continue to bless them. We do pray for our leaders. We ask, Father, for your guidance and for your wisdom in their lives and in their ministry as they serve the people of their communities. Thank you for the willingness to be here this morning. Pray that you might bless this time. Father, might we learn much. And Father, might you be pleased, and we'll glorify you in Jesus' name. Amen. So Jim Leaf is the president CEO of ITU Absorb. That's as much as I'm going to tell you. So like I said, I find him to be a very bright and very humble man. So I've really, really enjoyed getting to know him. So Jim, if you'd come and moderate our program. Good to see you.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate the kind words. My name is Jim Leaf. I am the CEO and president of ITU Absorb Tech, our main office, our biggest plant. My office is in New Berlin, which is, 30 minutes east of here. I'll get back to that, some of that later. Now, Steve just alluded to something. I was asked to moderate this panel. That process started a couple of months ago. Mike Dean and Steve Board were in on it. And I'd like to share the story with you about how that came about. Now, I came to the meeting a month ago when Tim Morgan was talking about marketing, and he referred to the Dilbert cartoons. And it seems to me that the process of how I got here is right out of a Dilbert cartoon. So, who's familiar with Dilbert? Okay, some, but not everybody. Dilbert was a strip that I don't remember how long it's been out of publication, but they poked fun at business people. So the story goes something like this about why this is like a Dilbert cartoon. Well, Mike and Steve asked me if I would moderate a panel at a university campus about a group of county executives. My first reaction to it was, I've never moderated a panel before, and they replied, no problem. Well, the next panel of the Dilbert would be, I haven't been on a college campus in 40 years, and I don't have any credibility with students. They said, that's fine. So then the next panel would be, and I don't know anything about how county government works. So they enthusiastically, in unison, said, you're perfect. So of course I thought about it a bit and I asked, well, how much does it pay? And the answer, as I think as you guess, is nothing. So I thought about it for a couple of seconds and said, cool, count me in. So here I am. Well, now that I've told you a couple things about what I'm not and who I'm not, I'm going to tell you something about who I am. I am the 3rd generation president of ITU Absorb Tech. It's my family's business. We employ about 400 people throughout our system. We run 5 processing facilities. 2 of them are in Wisconsin, 1 each in Indiana, Pennsylvania, and South Carolina. We also operate 8 service centers in the eastern U.S. so that we can efficiently deliver and service our customers. So, what do we process? Well, we are an industrial laundry. We provide reusable textile products to business and industry, which our customers get very, very dirty. We then wash them, package them, and deliver those textiles back to customers to be used over and over and over again. Our products include shirts and pants, which are worn by employees in manufacturing plants. It's also floor mats and other reusable textile products used primarily in manufacturing. However, the largest part of our business, and this has been exploding over the last few years, is in shop towels and absorbent products, which help companies with their sustainability objectives. Our Zorbits product line replaces paper-based absorbents that become soaked with oil or solvent, and the traditional method would be that after they're used, they get picked up, thrown into a dumpster, and they go to a landfill, or they might be incinerated. With our services, the textiles are washed and they're reused. More importantly, though, the oils and the solvents that we recover from in the washing process, we can clean them up so that they have value, and we can sell them, as a byproduct to be used over again. Now, we don't know of anybody in the world that does what we do with regard to recovering the oils and the solvents. We are a people-intensive business. About half of our 400 people are routinely in contact with customers. Most of them are on our customer shop floors. They teach employees how to best use our products. They monitor and they adjust supplies on hand, and they communicate to our customers the cost and benefits of our services. Now, that level of service in our business is also very unique. Now, I could talk at length about that, but I'm not going to. One reason I did take this role, even though, as I just told you, I am eminently unqualified, is to talk for a minute to the students in the room. Okay? The business people and the university staff and so on, you're free to listen to it, but the couple of things that I want to talk about. To the students, I suspect that a lot of you, you're already getting contacts from a lot of potential employers. I'm imagining that a lot of you have done internships, correct? Well, once you graduate, I imagine that the number of businesses that are going to be asking and wanting to talk to you about your services is going to get even bigger. I can't think of a single business person that's in my circles of friends in my industry and through association work that I do. I can't think of a single business person who is saying, you know, as far as talent that I need to run my business in the future, I'm good. Nobody is saying that. I'm not aware of anybody. So as you graduate, and even before you graduate, your services are going to be in high demand. Now, I think back to my 40 years ago when I was getting out of school, and I'm fortunate to be part of a family business, but the job market didn't look anything like it does now, and the future that you guys face is incredible. Now, I think I can speak, I know I can speak for ITU AbsorbTech, and I think I'm speaking for most employers. The biggest and most important characteristic that we're looking for is a very positive attitude, a willingness to learn, and a desire to be part of a successful team. If you have those characteristics, you are in a great place when you get out into the working world and looking for a place for a career. Now, if you have a degree that fits the needs of potential employers, that's even better. Now, my understanding is that most of you are in the business school at MBU, right? Well, it sure looks to me like you all have tremendous opportunities in front of you. I hope you're excited and looking at the vast choices that you have with a lot of excitement. Now, ITU AbsorbTech does have a cool and unique story in helping our customers avoid throwing oily stuff away. We love to find and work with manufacturers that are concerned about their waste streams, and there are a lot of companies like that. When I spend time visiting customers with my people, I see amazing things. One of our account execs, who works out of Piedmont, South Carolina, told me she loves her job because every day is like a new episode of How It's Made. What I also see all the time are companies that are just doing fascinating things, but they're also eager to find and hire talented young people like you. So I'm going to wrap up this section with a couple of pleas. When you're looking at your career options, what I'd encourage you to do is please consider going to work in the manufacturing sector. Manufacturing companies need talented people like you. There's a perception that has been out there that manufacturing jobs are dirty, dumb, and dangerous. That's not the case. Manufacturing these days, and in the plants I see all the time, is very different. I'd describe manufacturing as being high pay, high tech, high skill, and high career upside. So my first plea is, if you're thinking about where you want to form a career, please consider manufacturing. Now, the second plea that I have to make, when I was growing up in the Milwaukee area, I wanted to go someplace else. I wanted to go someplace that had mountains or oceans or bigger cities and exciting things. Wisconsin just seemed to be boring and nothing ever happened here. Well, after 4 years at the University of Arizona in Tucson, and 9 years of living near Chicago, and now many, many, many years of business travel visiting a lot of other cities, there's no place I want to be other than Wisconsin. I could go into more detail on that, but let me boil it down to this. My company hires people from around the country who are reluctant to move here, but once they do, they want to stay. I hear that over and over and over again, and I think a lot of the business people in the room probably do too. So those are my two pleas. Please seriously look at a career in manufacturing, and please consider making Wisconsin your permanent home. So thank you for indulging me that time, and now we will get to the business of the morning. I would like to welcome and introduce our 5 panelists. As I said, I have no experience in county government. I've lived and worked almost all of my life in Waukesha County, but I know little about what the county does and how they do it. I know there's a courthouse in the middle of Waukesha, and the few times I need to go there, I can find my way there and I can find my way back. I know a little bit about roads and sewers and things like that, but other than that, I don't know much of anything about county government, which I think is something of a testament to the county because it's never been a problem. So what I expect is I've got some questions that I'm going to be asking our panelists, and I expect that I'm going to learn an awful lot by listening to the answers. So first of all, to introduce our panelists, I would like to welcome Mr. Jim Milkey, representing Dodge County, Mr. Ben Waymeyer from Jefferson County, Dwayne Morris is also from Jefferson County, Josh Shulman from Washington County, and last but not least, Paul Farrow from Waukesha County. So, gentlemen, can each of you take a minute or two to further introduce yourselves? So, how about if I start with Ben?
My name is Ben Waymeyer. I've been with Jefferson County just over 4 years now. It's gone very fast. I'm a native of Waukesha as well, and I am too a Wisconsin kid that came back home. I graduated from UW Whitewater. From there, I went to Texas, where I lived for 4 years while I was on active duty. Then I went back to school in Northern Illinois University, where I met Mr. Shulman, and I stayed down there for the next 9 years. When the opportunity to come back home, worked out very well. It is a pleasure to be here. This is a great community to work in. It's a great community to visit in, and I hope you will learn something about us all today.
My name is Dwayne Morris. I'm the Jefferson County supervisor, and so I work along with Ben and enjoy his able and outstanding leadership. So you owe me $5. And my committee work is in law enforcement, emergency management, work with the medical examiner's office, criminal justice collaborating council, and the library board, along with Waukesha County as well. And I love this area as well. I graduated from Maranatha back in the colonial era, and also a graduate of UW Whitewater, and love the area and I'm glad to be here.
My name's Josh Shulman. I'm the county administrator in Washington County. I've been there just about 4 years as well. Ben and I go way back, probably farther back than you want to hear about, actually. So my path to this position was I was a village administrator in Richfield, which is a southwest community in Washington County. I went on a very similar path to what Ben went. I was in Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003, right at the beginning of the war, and then realized I wanted to get into government to make a difference. And here I am trying every single day. So thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to talking with you.
Good morning. Wow. That's loud. Sorry. I gotta tone it down a little bit. My name is Paul Farrow. I'm the Waukesha County Executive. A little bit different than the administrators. I'm actually an elected position. So it's a 4-year term that I was elected to back in April of 15. Prior to that, I was in the state legislature. I was a state senator, state assembly. Prior to that, I was a small business owner for about 15 years. And as I look, we were talking about most of you from the business program, my degree is in business administration with an emphasis in marketing, which has a lot to do with public interaction. So keep in mind what you're learning today. There are many different fields that you can go through to get where you want to be. And we'll talk about that later.
Morning. My name is Jim Melke. I'm from Dodge County. My local government career began in 1997. Prior to that, I served as a village board trustee and a county board supervisor. I do have the privilege of being the first administrator for Dodge County. I began my duties there in September of 2008, so it's a little bit over 9 years. And one exciting aspect of this is that every day is something new, and it's a challenge, but it's a lot of fun, and looking forward to today's panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Well, let's get down to business. My first question for the panel. Foxconn has gotten a tremendous amount of attention throughout Wisconsin. The project in Racine County will have a major impact on the state, as well as the region as a whole, including your counties. Can you comment on the impact of such a large new employer in southeastern Wisconsin? How about if we start with Jim?
When I saw this question, it kind of threw me a little bit. With the Foxconn issue, it's certainly the largest event in the state of Wisconsin, and it certainly put Wisconsin on the map throughout the country as a place to be. One aspect that I see from this Foxconn issue is the importance of working together. This entire deal came together through cooperation with the state, through the county, through the local villages, through the cities and the towns. As to how this will actually impact Dodge County, I think as we sit here today, that is unknown at this time. We certainly hope to have a positive impact. There's the old saying that rising tide lifts all boats, and I certainly see that for this issue for the state of Wisconsin in this area. But I hesitate to offer something specific regarding Dodge County at this point, because there's just a lot of unknowns as we sit here. Hopefully in another year it'll become much clearer, but at this point we're excited about it, obviously for the entire region, and see that as a positive, but it's difficult to pinpoint exactly how it's going to impact Dodge County, but I'm hoping for a very positive impact long term.
Well, I think when you look at what Foxconn is going to bring to this entire region and actually to the entire state, one, I don't think we're finished hearing of how Foxconn is going to impact the state. There is going to be other announcements, I believe, because they're looking at other avenues and other areas that they can get involved in. When I look at Waukesha County and actually all the counties that are up here, one of the things that Foxconn is key on is supply chain. So they need companies that will supply the materials to them to make the LCD panels and the equipment that they have there. They're going to bring roughly about 100 to 150 companies with them from overseas that are specific suppliers to them. They're also going to have about a third more that are suppliers that are already existing. And I'm hearing from businesses in Waukesha County that have been contacted. One in particular said we're actually looking at about a 30% increase in productivity when this all comes through. So I think there's going to be opportunities for it, and the key for supply chain for us is they look for a 100-mile radius from the campus. So when you look at Racine, you come out here into Jefferson and Dodge County, there's going to be ample opportunity for us to show them how important it is to be in this area as well. But part of the components for us are infrastructure. And we've got to make sure that we've got a road system that is safe and is reliable, that they can move the commerce back and forth in between. So that's one of the things at the county that we continue to look at. It's going to be a great opportunity. I'm excited about it. A little more in depth about what's going on. I'm one of the co-chairmen of the Milwaukee 7, which is a regional economic development organization just actually stops unfortunately at the Jefferson border. We go east to Lake Michigan. But there are a lot of things that are happening right now that I think you guys will be pleasantly surprised on announcements that will be coming down the road.
Thank you, Paul. Josh?
So I'm the son of a Lutheran minister, so I have a brief sermon prepared, no longer than 20 minutes. Just kidding. I'm not a politician. I don't talk
And
that
here we
long.
go.
No, I think that there's very little that is not good about the news with Foxconn. For those of you who've been around for a while, and for those of you who are coming up into the working sector pretty soon, Jim's comments are spot on. 10 years ago, we had the greatest recession that we've seen since the Great Depression. At that time, we were talking about double-digit unemployment. Every newspaper story was really terrifying. My brother, who's about 5 years younger than me, was walking out of a college similar to this one, and his job prospects were not good at all. He lived with my parents for a couple of years. It is exactly the opposite of that today. And Foxconn really kind of is the pinnacle of why that's the case in the state of Wisconsin. So we're at a place where we went from double-digit unemployment to a place now where we have less than 3% unemployment in my county, and it's almost to the point of the unemployable. And I think that's what we're hearing from employers all the time is the folks that are applying now, they're having a hard time finding people who they can even hire. I compare it to, I said I'm the son of a Lutheran minister, I compare it to the mission field in a way. You go out to a country in the Middle East and you see an abundance of individuals who have no connection with the gospel at all. And you can either look at that as, oh, this is terrible, think of all of these people that have no concept. Or you can look at it as, this is an incredible opportunity for a missionary. It's really not a lot different. This, from my perspective, for Washington County and really every county up here, this is an incredible opportunity and a humongous challenge for us.
I think locally here, the School of Business at MBU has an incredible opportunity to create a strategic relationship with Foxconn, to be able to supply them with very positive and able-bodied workers, anywhere from people on the floor to people in the office. And so I see that as a huge benefit to the School of Business here, and I'm just hoping that they can take advantage of that. We heard about how Gateway College was investing, I think, $5 million there in the area to service Foxconn. And so I think every technical college and universities as well are going to be doing their part. But I'm hoping at least there will be a strategic relationship created through the School of Business here with them to be able to service them as well. So I agree. I think it's a great opportunity.
We talk quite a bit here in Jefferson County about the I-94 corridor, the Maniwaki, if you want to look at it that way. County Bank, I talked about a little bit before too, looking at the I-94 connection. How do we become the bridge between Milwaukee and Madison? So that goes back to our strategic planning process. We talk about the county, and we want to take that as a responsibility, almost an ownership of taking that lead. So go back to Foxconn and what County Executive Fair talked about in the announcements. If you've read some of the paperwork, there's been some visits to a city to the west here called Madison, and looking at research-based opportunities and advancement there. And there's announcements, and we haven't heard much lately about it, but potential office space in downtown Milwaukee with Foxconn. And then the manufacturing hub down in Racine. Who's right in the middle of it? It's all these four counties sitting up here today. So we start talking opportunities. It's a supply chain for sure. I know we have companies already making components for other imaging device companies that are pretty big in here, GE Medical as an example, but there's opportunities to expand on that. But what are those other opportunities? Not just supply chain, but some of those IT realms as well. I think the other positive that comes out of this as we start working on it is it's going to force this region to work collaboratively and get together. Jim talked about getting the deal done in collaboration. But recently, Public Policy Forum hosted a session on Foxconn, and you saw leaders from various parts, from the regional economic, education, urban economic development associations, talking how do we work together to create this workforce. We almost have to have a parallel attack on the workforce issue that we're dealing with. We're going to have the immediate need today of how do we get these employees here, and how do we get our kids back home. I think that's a big part of what the state needs to help reinforce. And then also how we create a supply chain with education, and really focus in and working with our manufacturers, not just the Foxconns of the world, but everybody, so we can build that capacity for our future workforce.
Thank you, Ben. Well, the next question relates to a fair amount of what we were just talking about. As I said earlier, virtually every employer I know in Wisconsin and outside of Wisconsin is stressed over where they're going to find people to sustain their companies. Workforce development are two important words in the business community. Particularly, manufacturing companies are stressed over the demographics of the state and the apparent conception that manufacturing jobs are dirty, dumb, and dangerous. Can you speak to activities in your county to address the concerns and to communicate to your people, to young people, about the workforce opportunities in front of them? Ben, do you want to start?
Well, I'll start with one of the bigger initiatives we're starting on right now in Jefferson County. It's actually with Dodge County as well. Last year, the city of Jefferson went through a closure of Tyson. Over 400 jobs were lost in food processing. And as part of that area was declared an economic distress area by the federal government. So the city of Jefferson got an EDA grant to help revision how do we look at manufacturing and look at the future replacement of that workforce. So as part of that grant agreement, the Economic Development Corporation in Jefferson County partnered with the city to look at, we need to do a labor availability study. This last year, as we talked with Dodge and looked at where we were at and talking to manufacturers, we realized that is not enough. It just can't be a supply level. We've got to look at the demand related to that. And so working with a few other entities, we're going to be doing a more robust study, putting pins in the city of Jefferson and Mayville, and we're going to hit about 9 counties as a result of this pulling in data of calling potential employees. What is it going to take for them to come and work? What do we need to do in terms of benefits and salaries? And a lot of that data is how we help form that information for our employers. But also, when we start talking about the education, looking at the opportunities, so they realize, kids realize these are great jobs. There's opportunities to make a great living. In the city of Jefferson, they were built on manufacturing, with Schweiger Furniture as an example. And when they left, a lot of that middle class employment went away with it. And now it's being rebuilt with companies such as Generac, Fisher Barton, things like that, and a whole bunch of other companies. But part of the education, go back to that too. I see Ron here, and some of the things he does in terms of advanced manufacturing, looking at how you use robotics and things like that, and working with Watertown School District and getting kids trained at the early age in the program and the involvement in STEM programs. So it's a collaborative effort. It's not just the counties, but it's working with the employers in that education system.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I think it is really crucial that we look at the STEM programs, public education, private education, perhaps the advancement, the expansion of school choice, because we've got to look at this long term. It's not what are we going to do in the next few years, it's what are we going to do in the next 50 years. And what we have to develop is from the ground up, I mean from the elementary school up. We've got to develop this interest and this ability. So the STEM programs, the expansion of educational opportunities is where this is going to begin.
So in Washington County, we have a couple initiatives that we're working on right now in real time that are aimed at workforce, because we are hearing from almost every single employer their concerns. We've been hearing it for about the last 18 months. And when Foxconn was announced, it went from a kind of a concern that was raised frequently to almost a fever pitch with employers. So we have an economic development corporation that has been very successful over the last 8 years. They've started a project called Workforce 2020, working directly with employers in Washington County to connect them to resources in the workforce world. Our United Way Washington County also is doing a program with all the superintendents in Washington County called the Inspire Project, connecting students directly with employers in the workforce and making those connections before kids start making decisions about where they're going to go to college or where they're going to work or what type of future they hold. In the other part of my life, I'm the school board president of Hartford Union High School. And one of the things that's been interesting in that role, other than getting to look at life from the perspective of an elected official, is learning about what happens to our students after they leave Hartford. So at Hartford Union, about 50% of our students are non-college track kids, which is a high percentage for Southeast Wisconsin in particular. Of those students, how do we connect them directly with employers? How do we get them into positions straight out of high school? And how do we keep them in the greater Washington County, Southeast Wisconsin area is a major question that we're working on every day. What's equally as important that we talk about is that remaining 50% that's going to college. Sometimes, depending on the class, as many as 50% of them aren't finishing. And then they come back and they're looking for work. How do we make that connection that, again, Jim talked about, that manufacturing, particularly in Wisconsin, is a clean, good-paying profession, and how do we start the process there? Those questions are happening in real time and I think are going to be essential. The last thing I will point to is, I know Paul's an important contributor to our M7 region, as it's called, and one of the presentations that I saw from them was a slide that was shown to Foxconn. How many of you students are contemplating staying in Wisconsin after you graduate from school? 0. Okay.
Okay, no, there's like 3 or 4 or 5.
Okay, at least. So Washington County is a really nice place. Oh, that's not where I was going with that.
It's a long haul.
So if you look at a map of the United States and you think about just in the last 6 months, what has happened from the environment in the last 6 months in California? What's happening right now? Major forest fires. What's happening in the southeastern part of the country right now? Hurricanes. What happens all the time in Oklahoma and Kansas? Tornadoes. What happens in Wisconsin?
Nothing.
A whole lot of nothing. A snow event that might shut you down for a half hour. Right? We've got some of the best snow plowing operations in the country. So Wisconsin and Chicago, the Midwest in particular, is a great place to raise a family. It's a great, safe place to live and work. And we've got a lot of things going for us, and you need to think about that when you're thinking about where you're going to live.
All right, so it's audience interaction time. Because we're almost 15, 20 minutes into this. So I'm going to ask non-student people, how many of you are now working in the field that your degree is in? Okay. How many of you are working in the same position? Let's do this. How many of you had at least 5 positions in your business career? 10, 15, 20. Seriously, you guys have no fun. The reason I point that out for the students is think about what other things are going on in your life. Not only your degree is teaching you what you need to do. And what I want you to realize is you're going to be a lifelong learner. There's always avenues that you have to look at. There's always opportunities. So you might have a degree in business, but you may end up working in manufacturing, coming down a whole different pathway than you ever thought it would be, sitting behind a desk, crunching numbers. And I think that's one of the things that we have to get people to look at. And when I was in the legislature, we created the concept, the Academic Career Plan, which has been instituted in K-12 this year, to give kids an opportunity to really look at, if I'm excited about something, what does that mean for my career? If I like science, do I want to go into medicine? But then I realize I don't like the sight of blood, so maybe I shouldn't go into that area. So there's opportunities that we're helping kids learn what the world is like outside. When we look at what we do in the county, we have Waukesha County Business Alliance, a great organization that has created a Schools to Skills program. And they get kids from 8th grade through high school out into businesses to find out what's going on. Businesses have to get engaged. And you have to talk about the real parts of business that these kids are going to be learning. We have two individuals, and I love them to death. They're both project managers at companies. They talk about their career through the business, but they also talk about their income. And so, yeah, two of them now are over $100,000 a year, but they started at $22,000 a year. And they worked their way up. And I think that's one of the things that we have to do is really give a real understanding of what your expectations should be as you're graduating and you're moving forward, and what the opportunities are. Right now, on average, I believe it's for the millennial generation and younger, about 5 to 7 jobs in your first 10 years is what people are looking at. When you're looking at a job, look at what you really want out of it. And then what can you give back to the company? And that's going to make the connection that's going to give you a longevity with one organization or with others that people are going to be looking for.
In Dodge County, we're looking at quality of life issues. That's as a way of, with our workforce, what we're hearing from the workforce is that their downtime, their quality of life is very important. And in Dodge County has the small town atmosphere, has great employers, and so we're looking at that as a marketing tool. And also we're part of the MAD Rep regional effort. Some of our school districts, the Beaver Dam School District and Dodgeland School District, are working with their students to talk about opportunities in the private sector, and we certainly recognize that not every student needs to have a 4-year college degree. However, there's lots of opportunities through the high schools and through the 2-year colleges for the students as well. So there's a lot of opportunity, and it's that partnership, working with the manufacturers, working with the businesses, working with the school districts, and just working together with the students, and also impress upon them the quality of life. I thought Josh hit it really well today, talking about the advantages of living here versus some of the other issues facing the country at this time.
Thank you, Jim. I did learn some stuff from you guys, so this is paying off. I also want to talk about infrastructure issues. Foxconn is a huge undertaking. However, all over the region, there are construction projects going on as businesses move into or expand in Wisconsin. There's a lot of talk about crumbling highways and bridges, and the transportation budget in Madison was a major difficult topic. Now, infrastructure includes more than roads. It's also utilities, water, sewer, etc. Can you speak to the future of infrastructure to support the people who live and work in your county? Jim, should we start down at your end?
Sure. It's nice to be first. Okay, with that, when Ben was talking about the I-94 corridor, when you take a look at the region, we have Highway 26 has been upgraded to 4-lane. It's a great feeder down to Interstate 94. On the eastern region, we have Interstate 41, which both of those provide easy access for our residents to go travel back and forth and hit these areas. So that's very important. And another area is internet access, and that's very important. We have parts of Dodge County where some of the access isn't where it needs to be, but going forward in this economy and the expectation of our workforce, and actually for some of the employers in the startup, having that high-speed internet is very critical. And we tend to focus on the highway aspect of it, and that's very important, but we also have to look at what is available, like the high-speed internet, and that's very important. And I know that's on the state's radar as well, and so hopefully over time we can have improvements in the entire region for that aspect.
So, roads. Do you guys know that there are 3 different entities that handle the roads in our state? If there's numbers, Highway 26, Highway 83, I-94, those are state. Counties are letters. So County O, County D, those type of things, and then you've got municipal. Do you guys know when you go through a county road on a municipal road or a state road? A lot of times you don't even see it. But for us, it comes out to how do we pay for it, who is it? So when you're going through the roads and you hit a little hole maybe, we don't have big holes, we don't have potholes. But you hit when you're like, okay, who do I yell at? Is it the city, is it the county, is it the state? Where do we go with our issues? And I think that's part of what we have to see is we have to develop an infrastructure that is seamless. And so you see a lot of debate that went on in Madison over the budget. How do we pay for the infrastructure? In the counties, we have another level that we look at, in the municipalities. When we did a survey about 2 years ago of businesses in Waukesha County, we got 20% of the response. The number one issue that they had were safe roads. They wanted to make sure that their commerce was able to move freely and their employees were able to get to work very easily. Most of our businesses have 50 or fewer employees. So that's, commerce push is a huge thing for them. So we have to focus on how we maintain our roads. And I think we have to redefine, not just rebuild new roads, is really maintain them. We can get a road to last 40, 50 years, which is actually cheaper than rebuilding it every 25 years. So I think that's one of the biggest keys that we look at is how do we properly afford that. And then with the internet thing, it's amazing how we've started looking at that as a utility, as part of the infrastructure that we have. Here's a question for the kids. Do you guys have a phone at home that hangs on a wall? How about one that's got this dial that you had to spin? I mean, that's what a lot of us grew up with. It wasn't just having the phone with us 24/7. And so we have to now look at that infrastructure as we continue to see growth in what we're doing and make sure that we have that accessible across the whole region.
What was it like to talk to the operator first? Wow. Okay.
I'm not going to make.
Here we go.
I'm not going to make age part of this discussion.
In all seriousness, I think infrastructure is the domestic challenge of our time. It's not just a local issue. It's not just a state issue. It's a national issue. If you look at our airports, if you look at our interstate highway system, if you look at our sewer and water lines, every level of government has the same concern. And I think it's a conversation our country's got to have. What level of service are you willing to pay for, and how much are you willing to pay for it? And it's a difficult discussion. I don't think anybody has an easy answer. If they did, this budget would have been done in July and it would have passed unanimously. But it wasn't. It's a very difficult question. But I think it comes down to what Ben talked about a few minutes ago. For entirely too long, in all sectors of government, we've looked at ourselves as individual counties, municipalities. We've protected our kingdoms and our fiefdoms as if somebody cared about the line that's drawn on County Line Road, County Highway Q, between Washington and Waukesha. Nobody cares. Yeah. If you're in Starbucks on the north side of County Highway Q in Germantown and then walk across the street to Kohl's in Menominee Falls, the only people that care about it are county board supervisors and administrators. They really don't, it doesn't make any difference. And the sooner we can start having conversations collaboratively about how do we solve these problems collectively, the better off we're going to be. I think this issue is so directly tied to every question that's been asked. It's crucial that we answer it correctly. It ties directly to quality of life. It ties directly to economic development. It ties directly to just about every function of our lives. So I implore all of our elected officials and people at this panel to try to break down the barriers that really we've been the ones building for the last 30 years and start talking collaboratively about how do we work together to make these things happen.
Yeah, whenever I want to know about the conditions of roads, I always ask the people who drive for UPS or FedEx because they're out there all the time. And I just say, hey, so what county has the best roads? always hoping Jefferson County comes in first there. But they're the ones who know. What I see in terms of at least roads is a spider web, and it's going to go all throughout southeast Wisconsin and down into Illinois. There are certain corridors that they're probably going to have to address. I'm glad for how the 26 corridor has improved so significantly. I'm imagining that with Racine County, there's going to need to be a western corridor, perhaps Racine, Janesville, Evansville, I don't know, but that's what I'm guessing. And then as well, infrastructure is related to the demographics. So you go over to Verona and look at Epic, and the people who work at Epic are all these millennials, and they're up and coming, and they're bright people. So what do they value in terms of infrastructure? That's the important question we're going to need to be asking. What do they value in terms of infrastructure? So spotty Wi-Fi has got to be a thing of the past, right? And it probably has to be everywhere. And so how we're going to address that, I'm not sure. I do know this. I grew up in the Silicon Valley when it was known as the Santa Clara Valley. And the Silicon Valley was largely an orchard. And then it became, over time, the Silicon Valley, and the commute time went from about 20 minutes to go from one place to another to about 45 minutes. And it became so laughable after a while that my brother and I were actually thinking of a Monopoly type game called Commute. And we were going to market it and sell it because everybody in the Silicon Valley would be able to relate to how ridiculous it was to be able to drive around that place. So that's what we've got to address, and we've got to be forward thinking as we look at it. That's why I mentioned it's got to look like some sort of a spider web probably, and we've got another corridor or two that we've got to address probably right away.
When you start looking at the transportation issue, you realize the mass of what it is. So recently, the area between Zoo Interchange and Market Interchange was basically paused. And for us out in this area, and that should be concerning because that's more of a priority project in many ways than looking at the Zoo Interchange out to Madison. And so you couple that with what's been going on in 94 the last about year and a half, especially between Waukesha and Dane County, and you notice two main things have been going on. One, there were humps in the road. You haven't noticed those are being ground down. That's some old concrete base that was probably taken care of 20 years ago, and the cycles of engineering, they're popping up. The other thing is when they did the mill overlay, those seams started getting created. And so if you're starting to look now in Waukesha and Jefferson especially, we have ripped up the middle, the state has, and we put it down. Why is that concerning to me? They're investing in maintenance right now, which means what does that mean for the future of what happens to that road? If you've driven on I-94, since I've been administrator, going east-west as the traffic volume, oh my gosh. Just the last few years is unbelievable what's going on through commerce between Milwaukee, Madison, Evergreen, and so when you start looking at the cycles of what's going on in the north-south corridor on I-94, and they couple it with what's going to happen between Milwaukee and Madison, it is an issue. And it goes back to what Josh said too. Let's look at the history of infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, it's not just our road systems that we have in the country, it's also our buildings. We had this little thing called World War II. And when did most of our government and road systems get developed? Right after World War II. We were hitting a 50, 60-year cycle across the board. And so we built a lot of that all at once. And so now it's beginning to fail all at once. And dollars are not there to place. So we have to be creative, we have to look at collaborations, and we got to look at those smart choices going ahead. Last thing I'll talk is just a little bit of collaboration, and I think we could go through this panel here and talk about different collaborations that we have created in different entities. They also see us all laughing. But what that means is we're talking. We're having those conversations of how can we do things better together. What are those lines that no longer need to be lines? Paul mentioned M7 and Jim mentioned Maranatha. There is a boundary that's been created by a regional perspective. I think the manufacturing industry, if you look at our supply chain and our workforce, they don't stop at that line. Quite honestly, most of our supply chain is to the east. We have a lot going to the west, but a lot is going to the east. They're not stopping because you have a thing called M-Center and MADRA. And so when we start having those conversations, getting our regional groups to talk together, that's what's going to take to have those creative solutions. It is a new way of thinking. It's to be more efficient. It's to be more effective. But it's also putting services that our key stakeholders need to keep moving forward.
Thank you, Ben. I'm going to go to my last question, and I think this will be a little bit fun. Currently, the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce is running a promotion about the coolest things manufactured in the state of Wisconsin. So I want to kind of take that idea but go in a little different direction on it. One thing that I've talked about is I've gained more of an appreciation for living in southeastern Wisconsin over the years. And one thing that I keep finding out about are cool things that are in southeastern Wisconsin that I never knew about or may have heard of but never experienced firsthand. So my question to you guys is, what can you tell me about something that's in your county that is really a cool place or thing or event that most people don't know about? And you're reaching for the mic.
I figure we keep the order going, right? Going back and forth. So, we got a lot of cool things in Jefferson County. One thing as we start talking about corridors, recently, Smart Ass is named Watertown and Port Atkins as the top 10 in the country place to be manufacturing goods for workforce. So that's a pretty cool thing. That means we have a lot of things going on. Obviously, we have a little company called Trek, and recently, September, they brought an event in, one of 2 events in the United States of a unique bicycling growing sport that was live streamed back to Europe. So that's a pretty cool thing. We also have this little company in Lake Mills called Silgen. And if you ever want to have some fun, Google remote control coolers. Okay? So I got to say, Milwaukee Journal actually recently did an article about this company. They actually were at the Capitol, I think. Senator Pinga actually was with them. And they talked about the remote control cooler. So it blends the best of all worlds, Wisconsin tailgating and easy access, right? But you can get market in terms of the Badgers, Marquette, the Green Bay Packers. So it's a pretty cool, neat device that's made here locally.
Okay, so what are millennials like? So in Jefferson County, we got this great set of bike trails, and you can bike everywhere. It's just a really fabulous thing, glacial heritage. And millennials are on there all the time, having a great time. The most obvious is the Rock River. I live on the Rock River. I kayak the river. My family kayaks the river. It's a great place to do. So when you got downtime and quality of life, the Rock River is where you need to be. The other thing, have you ever noticed in this area of southeastern Wisconsin, there's a 5K somewhere every weekend? You know, you can spend money signing up for a 5K to support a variety of different things. And you know what's amazing is that people show up every weekend and they run a 5K. And they do it partly because they're interested in staying in shape, and they do it because they're supporting the cause. And that's how we are. We think about great things that we can do and do it in creative ways. And that's what I love about this area.
So I think the most exciting thing about Washington County is that you can live in the village of Germantown and have a really nice quality of life and walk across the county line into Milwaukee County and have all of the beautiful facets of city life within just a couple of minutes and a couple of miles. That's a pretty cool thing to be able to have access to. What's even more cool, maybe you heard about this, maybe you didn't. Right around June, we had this worldwide event at, I can't remember the name of the place, Erin Hills. The U.S. Open was over there. That was in Washington County. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that every county represented at this table was a key contributor to that event, either from a law enforcement side, an emergency management side, public health side. It was an awesome event. It's a world-class facility. Someday when you're making lots of money, you can probably golf out there if you want. I'm still trying to get to that point where I can golf out there. I want to take a huge hack out of that fairway one day. But that's the beauty of Washington County. That facility is literally a 25-minute drive from downtown Milwaukee, 45 minutes from the airport. And that's how close we are to a world-class city at the same time as if somebody dropped you out there out of a helicopter and you had no idea where you were and you looked around, you'd swear you were in the middle of Ireland. It's gorgeous.
Thanks.
Yep.
when you look at Waukesha County, again, I think a lot of what we hear is quality of life. And I love it. Again, we got 4 great seasons. And Wisconsinites know how to cram everything they can into each of those seasons. If you're a golf enthusiast, the window is short, but you're going to play as long as you possibly can. I think we always enjoy those opportunities where we can play on Christmas. And it's like, look, I golfed on Christmas in Wisconsin. Get over it, people. This is great. If I had to pick one spot that I think you guys should go to, it's Lapham Peak Park. It's right off I-94, Highway C area. They've got a beautiful tower that's there to climb up. This time of year, as the colors are starting to change, it is just incredible to view and to look out over that vastness and see what's happening. I think that's one of the things that the counties do so well is when we have county parks, we're not there for recreation. We're not there to create a sports diamond or a water park. We're there to really maintain a natural setting and the beauty that we have in the Kettle Moraine area here that goes straight through this whole region. That is a key, and for me, I got 2 dogs. I got a golden retriever and I got a little rescue that have a lot of energy. And so be able to take walks with my dogs, my wife and my boys, and just get away from the big city life and just kind of relax and enjoy the nature is always a key component for me in what we can do.
Thinking of Dodge County, everything in Dodge County is cool. When you take a look at Dodge County, we're 40 miles or less from Madison, from the Fox Valley, Milwaukee, easy access for all those venues if somebody wants the big city life and the sporting events. When you look at the Dodge County park system, we have wonderful county parks. Dodge County is also home to the Horicon Marsh, which I think many of us, when you talk about Dodge County, people know about the Horicon Marsh, which is the largest cattail marsh in the world, I believe. Very popular. So everything in Dodge County is cool, from our employers to our schools to our county board. Our chairman's here today. And but when it's all said and done, I think just being in this location and being part of Wisconsin is cool as well. And being up here with these guys was fun too.
Well, thank you, Jim. Every time I ask that question, I come up with interesting things that I've learned about southeastern Wisconsin, so I appreciate your answers. That's the end of my questions. I guess what I would ask is, can we get a hand for our panelists? I learned a lot. I hope you all enjoyed their talk. Steve, do we have time for a few questions?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for any of our panelists?
We got a plant out there.
The 2 county officials raised their hands, so hang on a second.
Thank you. And Josh, I had to restrain myself from running up there to hug you when you started talking about, fiefdoms. Just don't do that.
We can hug later.
I mean, almost 30 years of government work. It's just so wonderful to hear that. I want to go back to the conversation about regionalism and regional approaches to building the Wisconsin that will keep people here in the future, will keep these students here in the future, will attract more people to come here and live here. And specifically, the notion that we need to be that bridge, because we are. I mean, we are the land between Milwaukee and Madison, and this real estate matters. And the one thing that we always say is business can move, but we can't. We can't move our dot on the map. It is where it is, right? So how do we, from a regional perspective, take on the development of those corridors that link these major metropolitan areas and create more residents, more businesses wanting to be here?
Yeah, I grabbed the mic first, so they're going to let me go. I think the key starts with having leaders that are willing to have those conversations. And I think that's, when you look at this group up here, that's the number one thing that we have is, I don't care that I live in Waukesha County. What I care about is how do I provide a seamless system through this whole region. When you look at Milwaukee, you really have to start looking at, and people kind of look at Denver. Denver is a city, but it has a metroplex. The counties and everything that align it are huge. We're the same way here. When you look at Milwaukee, you look at a metroplex that actually gets past Jefferson County to touch Dane County. And we are shrinking, granted now the speed limit is 70 miles an hour, so we're shrinking even more, between Milwaukee and Madison. But all of that is starting to converge. We're having conversations now from the county level, in the County Execs Association, we just talked about this, having a series of symposiums on artificial intelligence. And how do we utilize artificial intelligence not only from business perspective, but from government perspective, to create a digital county that is more receptive to the people. And that is, I think, the key. For us up here, we know we have a finite amount of dollars. Whatever the tax dollars are, that's what runs us. And we can't keep going back saying we need more and more, and we've got different levels doing it. We have to say, okay, what do we have? How can we deliver it more efficiently? You know, conversations that Josh and I are having about where can we share services, where can we consolidate departments, what can we work in. We talked about the library system, the bridges system between Jefferson and Waukesha County. All those type of things are giving us an opportunity to spread each taxpayer's dollar a little bit farther. And that's the key for us. In Waukesha County, as this whole conversation started, we have targeted or found over 105, 110 different areas that we've merged services with other government entities, or we've privatized our services because it's cost effective to do that. And those are the conversations that we have to continue to have.
So I think I've been talking about this a lot, particularly in the last 6 months. And I think it's the crux of how do we answer that question of providing government at a level that people want at a cost that we can afford. So if you think about Washington County, obviously that's the one I'm most familiar with. We were created in 1853. That's the existing boundary was made in Washington County. At that time, counties were largely created on the basis of how long would it take Farmer X on the southwest corner of our county to horse and buggy it up to the courthouse and back in 1 day's time. Today, I can make that same trip in about 35 minutes. So for me to do an hour-and-a-half drive makes really no difference. The services that we're providing to people are all the same, especially at the county level. So trying to answer that question of how can we provide services on a 21st century platform and migrate away from 17th, 18th, 19th century thinking is going to be the key, I believe, to answering your question. But it's a foundational and quite frankly, it's a cultural discussion that's got to happen in the region.
There is a sense, Vicki, though, and when there is a little bit of fiefdom, and that is this. The criminal element that exists in this area pays attention to law enforcement. And where law enforcement is not equipped to deal with them, that's where they focus. And so my role in county government with law enforcement is in part to encourage a regionalism on the part of law enforcement and cooperation, where our sheriffs are talking to each other, our municipalities are talking to each other, because we can have Foxconn and we can have Epic and we can have all of these other places, but if this isn't a safe environment to live, the next generation isn't going to want to be here. And so a part of regionalism is making sure that on the law enforcement side that we're talking to each other, and we are, but we've got to continue that and probably expand it with different kinds of task force approaching things like drug trafficking and things of that nature.
Okay, I just want to jump on that comment for a second because he said something really, really important. He said something that hasn't been said in Wisconsin in almost forever, we can have Foxconn. 10 years ago, there was no such thing as we can have fill in the blank with economic development. Wisconsin is changing in real time. The world is changing in real time. And we are at the epicenter of it. And the attitude of working together is the absolute key to making it work. I'm telling you, for youth, you've got to understand, study history. Yep. Read David McCullough. What's happening today is all predicated on that. And having an understanding of how we got to where we are is so important to knowing where we're going to go. But we're in some really fascinating times right now.
Great comment.
Thank you.
Dan?
I'm Dan Barr from Wisconsin County Association. I want to thank our speakers. They're all from the county family. But I guess my question is a little bit for Paul. Last Thursday, I was invited by the EDC to a group in Milwaukee. I was on the 40th floor of the U.S. Bank building, and they were trying to recruit a company from Mexico to come to Wisconsin and set up their operations there. Logan from the Milwaukee 7, one of your staffers, was there. He spoke along with me, and what they wanted to hear from me was what are local governments in Wisconsin doing to foster a positive business climate and make our state more attractive for businesses. And because you guys are local government leaders and county leaders, I put that question to you, what you're doing in your counties. Logan talked about the different things the state government was doing, and one of his things was, state, in terms of environmental regulations and in terms of how we do our zoning, you pass that regulation along to the locals. So I guess I'll turn it over to you guys and what you think we're doing locally, in addition to what the state's doing to make our climate more friendly, to attract jobs and grow our economy.
Well, I think one of the keys, again, is blurring the lines. When we start talking municipalities, we're trying to make sure that when we're inviting a new company to come into an area, it's easy. The permitting process is easy. The opportunities are there. The support network is easy. We all have a great economic development organization that's there to assist businesses to grow. And I think that's what we can provide more and more is, well, and I'll put it this way because kind of it goes back to Foxconn. One of the reasons Foxconn came here is because they said, wow, you guys actually work together, meaning the different levels of government. And this is an individual who has seen in different parts of the world how governments work. He is pulled out of areas because there's been a regime change. The president's been overthrown in a country. As far as Pennsylvania, a government changed. The governor switched after an election. And the new guy wanted to renegotiate the contract. And Chairman Goh said, okay, have a nice day. And he walked out. He looked at this region and said, you guys are really working together. And that is something that I don't see very often. I think that's one of the things that, when we go talk again about collaboration, you're looking at individuals up here who don't say it's Waukesha County or nothing. It's Washington County or nothing. It's, look, we've got a region that we can put you where the best fit's going to be. And I think that's one of the things that we continue to strive for is making sure that we have those open conversations at all the different levels of government.
I think the other part just becomes education. It's blurring those lines, and it goes back to Tim said too. Ships rise all. And we talk about that quite a bit around here. And so recently, Trek opened up a new facility for distribution down in Johnson Creek, and there was some hurt feelings with some folks. But then we start talking, and why are we having hurt feelings? Because quite honestly, they're drawing employees from Watertown. They're drawing employees from Wake Mills. They're drawing employees from Oconomowoc, some Prairie. At the end of the day, it goes back to blurring the lines. Folks didn't go where the jobs are at. It's very easy to commute. Quite honestly, as employers up here as well, that's a challenge we face. Because it is pretty easy to commute within this region. That some of our professional staff, it's pretty easy to go across the lines with the private industry. And we're in the same boat when we start talking workforce development. So it really is that collaboration, education that, at the end of the day, we work together. There's a lot of great things that can be accomplished.
Yes, and part of the collaboration is the public sector talking with the private sector. It's the private sector that says, hey, we want Foxconn, and we want Epic, and we want these other places, and the public sector is saying, how can we facilitate that? What can we do to work together to make sure that that actually happens?
Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for the questions. I appreciate all the attention from everyone and the all the nice people at Maranatha Baptist University. It's been great being here, and I imagine I'll be back for some more of these breakfasts if I'm invited. So, thank you very much. Another round of applause for our panelists, please.